All right, welcome everybody that's on Zoom and on Facebook. This is Lance Luke and Martin Pea. Martin is the guy sitting in front of the Coliseum, begging tourists for donations or something, but he's the IT guy. And this is Lance Luke, National Building Expert. This is part of Ask the Building Expert webinar series. We normally talk about building and construction stuff, but we decided to do a change up here and talk about my recent trip to Italy. This webinar is presented by Construction Management Inspection, which is a company that I own, based out of Honolulu, Hawaii. And thank you those who are in Italy right now watching this. If I pronounce something incorrectly or don't say something that's factual, let me know. I know it's like 8 p.m. right now in Italy. It's actually 9 a.m. in Honolulu, Hawaii, where we're broadcasting this. So there's like a 11-hour time difference. But welcome those of you in Italy, around the world, and also in the United States, and especially in Hawaii, where we're broadcasting. And like I mentioned before, this is not our usual Ask the Building, talking about building and construction stuff. We're going to talk about ancient buildings in Italy. And why? Because my wife and I took a trip in November, which was about 4 months ago. We actually went on a cruise and we stopped in different cities in Italy. And I wanted to kind of let you know about some of the buildings that we looked at, which I feel are important. And you're going to save a lot of money. So instead of spending the $22,000 that we did on the cruise and various hotel stays outside of the cruise, this is a freebie for you. So, no need to pack a suitcase or wait in line, long TSA lines. Martin and I already got your tickets, your passports, your global entry cards. So, we're checking in. So right now, this is an announcement. So we're at gate 21A of Terminal B of Lance Luke Airlines. So hopefully you're here. If you're not, we may wait another minute or two so you guys can join us. So we're pretty much set to go. Hopefully you guys are excited. And also we just got government approval that on this tour, if there's a Chinese balloon floating, around, we can shoot it down. Okay, so we don't care what it is, whether it's a Mauna Pua or a Chinese satellite spy balloon or whatever. That's where we're going to go. So basically on our tour, we're going to stop in Venice, Trieste, Sicily, Naples, Rome. And when we went on the cruise, we actually stopped in Croatia, a city called Split. And we're supposed to go to Montenegro and some other ones, but due to bad weather, our cruise ship had to detour. And we didn't get to visit those, but instead we went down to Sicily, which was kind of last minute. So are you ready for our grand tour? Oh, by the way, this is not a timeshare or a cruise or a tour presentation. We're not going to sell you anything, although we might give away a keychain. So hang in there. And then also, most of the sites that I'm going to be talking about are UNESCO World Heritage Sites. And what does that mean? UNESCO means United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization, and it's part of it's an arm of the United Nations. Okay, so you might ask, oh, the people that are in Hawaii, do we have a UNESCO World Heritage Site in Hawaii? And anybody know the answer? It's interesting, right? So the answer is we only have one There's one UNESCO World Heritage Site in Hawaii, and that is the Volcanoes National Park on the Big Island. And in that park, there's two active volcanoes, which is Mauna Loa and Kilauea. So that's just some trivia if you didn't know. So let's move along and join the tour. By the way, if you join us late, that's okay. You just got to catch up. So how old is old? Well, interesting. And because I'm in construction as a construction engineer, when I go on various trips around the world and even in the US, I'm always interested in architectural design and buildings and construction and what the buildings are made of and how old they are. So we got one that's in Venice that I'm showing you here in St. Mark's Square, Duomo di Milano. Construction began in 1386. So if you think about how old it is, that's how old. That's like before all of us were born. And that building is still standing. That church is still standing. So it's kind of amazing to see buildings that old that are still around, because I compare it to condo buildings today that are built in the 60s that are falling apart. Some are built in the 70s and falling apart. So, there's a difference in the type of construction, the materials used, the architecture, and repair and maintenance. And, it goes without saying, if you don't repair a building, it's just going to fall apart, right? Same way with your house. Okay? So continuing on, construction in the Roman times. Okay, construction materials in Roman times, they use stone, they use rocks from the quarry, they use wood, timber, and they use marble, which is natural. So the design of the buildings in Italy were basically built with these three materials and then also concrete. And you may have heard of the term Roman concrete, but there's different characteristics in that concrete that makes the buildings last longer than the concrete that's being used today, or that have been used in the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, and even today. Okay? So the design using columns and lintels were the basic design, and later arches and domes were added. And basically, they're not using nails or pins or any kind of metal. It was just basically cut stone, that were placed like blocks on top of each other. That was the early form of building in the ancient Roman days. Okay? And then they added limestone and ash to a concrete mix, and they found that this concrete is lasting a long time. It's not like current modern concrete where there's a lot of rebar and the rebar gets rusted and it cracks the concrete and all that. So they're still investigating and coming up with more information. So there's a town called Trieste, which is a small coastal town that's north of Venice. And our cruise ship originally was to port in Venice and leave at the Venice port, but last minute it was discovered that the city of Venice, they were not allowing cruise ships to go into their port anymore because of environmental concerns. And the concerns were that these big cruise ships by nature stir up a lot of water and debris, and they cause havoc to the ecology, to whatever is growing in the ocean around the coastal area. So that's why they banned the cruise ships. So we had to catch the cruise ship in Trieste. So basically we landed in Venice, we spent some time in Venice, and then we had to catch a bus for about hour and a half, 2 hour ride up to Trieste to catch a cruise ship. So that was kind of a little detour there, but we got to see some of the landmarks, and showing you some of the towns here. There's in Italy, it's surrounded by water, right? So you got a lot of areas where there's water. There's a kind of like a castle thing right on the water. So we didn't stay in Trieste too long because we had to catch a cruise ship. So let's move along now. Now we're in Venice, and Venice is interesting because it's actually Venice is built on a group of like about 118 small islands, and there's a lot of canals, and there's about 400 bridges, and instead of like roads, like driving on roads, they have canals that are their roads. And of course there are roads in Venice, because from the airport we have to catch a cab in Venice to go to drop us off at this area where we have to walk with our luggage through town. And then we didn't know that we had to catch what's called a water taxi, and it's a boat that would take us across the canal to where our hotel was. So our hotel wasn't in the Venice city. So every day when we went to Venice, we had to go and catch that water taxi across the canal to the city. So it was kind of a adventure, because we didn't know what was up, where we had to go, and all that. We're like tourists that didn't have a clue, trying to find out how to get to our hotel and all that. But so here's a picture that I took of a building in Venice, and this building is not historical, but the reason why I wanted to show this is in order to fix the building, like bricks that are cracked or loose, patch concrete and paint, the contractor has to build a scaffolding system in the water, and built the scaffold so that they could have access to the building. So a lot of times when they need building materials, there's boats that actually bring the concrete and building materials to that little dock that they made and use it to repair the building. It's a whole entire process. Like, I'm not used to seeing this. I'm used to seeing land where you're on the ground and you're not hanging over the water in order to fix the building. So it's a whole different concept of how to repair. But these guys know what they're doing, and it's interesting. This is the first time I've seen something like that, building over water. So in Venice, there's Doge's Palace. This is a historical building, and basically this is a palace that was the king, or whatever title that they use as the person who was in charge of the area. I don't know if it was a chancellor or emperor or whatever the name is. So this is one building that's pretty old, and as you can see here, at the time I was there, they were painting the building. So if you look at the scaffolding system, it's set up there to maintain the building. And that's probably a reason why these buildings are lasting so long, because they keep maintaining it. And this building is like basically right on the water too. There's a whole concrete pathway with bridges and all that. So it's not really sitting directly on the water, but it's very close to it. And then also you have this huge flat area called Saint Mark's, and this is a photo of the basilica. By the way, I personally took all these photos I'm showing you with my iPhone. So some of it may not be as clear, but I tried to get good shots. And there's no way, there's so many tourists there, you have to take the photo with the tourists. You can't tell them to move out of the way because there's like thousands of them all roaming around, and sometimes it gets really packed. So this is a photo of a basilica at St. Mark's Square, and this is another old building. I mean, when you're standing looking at the building, you're kind of in awe because of the intricate ornamental design and everything. Like people don't do these kind of things today, right? And I don't know how much it costs to duplicate that kind of minute details, but it's pretty amazing. Also in St. Mark's Square, you know, we're still in Venice. There's this clock tower and archway that, I mean, when you look at the building, you can see that it's like super old already, right? So, you know, ancient. And all these buildings are on the historical list. So they're very important to Venice. Also, there's a Cafe Florian, and the St. Mark's area, the plaza is really big, and it's flat, and they have all these square looking gray like cobblestones. And at the time we were there, you know, one day they had like 4 or 5 stages where they had live music. So, you know, we got to find a little table, small little table, and you know, ordered our refreshments and drinks and some food, and we got to, you know, listen to the music and watch the entertainers. And I didn't know at the time when I looked at the menu that it was $6 a person to sit and listen to the music. And I'm like, that's okay, you know, we'll pay because you know, it's good music. They had a group that played jazz and all different types of music, Brazilian, bossa nova, jazz standards. They did some symphony type music. I mean, it was pretty cool. So I didn't mind paying the money because some of it goes to the musicians, right? So that was a lot of fun for me. And then here's the plaza, as you can see, and then the bell tower of St. Mark's, and you can see the height of this tower compared to like the average person walking around. So from here, you can see how big this area is, and it could literally fit thousands of people packed into it. And when they have concerts, they literally have thousands of people packed in this one area. And then, by the way, if you in the past heard about Venice flooding and you see pictures, some of the pictures that you see on the news is of this plaza that has water in it. So what happens is underneath the stones, seawater rises up when you have flooding or like a super high tide with a storm. And this whole area is actually underwater. You know, it may be 1 foot of water, 2 feet, or 6 inches, but that's, you know, what's happening, because people say that Venice is actually built on water. It's a city on water. So that's Venice. And then here's another angle of the whole square. So it's called Piazza San Marco, which is basically Italian for St. Mark's Square, and it's pretty huge. At this time, I took the photo, it was very early in the morning, and you only have like, you know, one vendor that's setting up selling hats, and they haven't even set up all the chairs and all that yet for the concert. But because I was there early. Now, it was about 7:30 in the morning. If I had gone back at like probably 1 to 2 o'clock, this whole area would have been packed, right? So you know, that's the difference. Within a matter of an hour, you could have like 300 to 400 tourists just coming in. So it's pretty amazing. Here's another old building. I'm not going to bother to pronounce it because I don't speak Italian too good, but if you look closely, there's a lot of detail, and I should have had a close-up of the detail, but anyway, that's just amazing. And then, continue on our tour. From Venice, we go to Naples, and Naples has a lot of different pizza places, and as well as any other city in Italy. If you go to any city, they have different pizza there, right? Um, the thing to watch for, if you ever visit Naples, they got like in the city, in the town of Naples, it's not that big, but they got these narrow streets, and it's so narrow. If you drive in a truck, the truck can hardly fit down the road because of the narrow street, but the street, and there's no sidewalk. So if you're a pedestrian, you have to walk in the street, right? And then there's bikes, there's people who are in motorcycles, there's people who are in scooters. And so if you're a pedestrian walking, and because the streets are so narrow and there's blind corners, it's easy to get run over by somebody on a bike, driving a car. The cars are all small too, but these people speed. The local people, they really drive fast, and even on motorcycles. So there are a couple of times I almost got run over by either a car, a taxi, or someone on a motorcycle, or I almost got hit by a guy riding a bike. I mean, it's dangerous. So we didn't stay too long in Naples because I didn't want to get run over. But we did take a tour of Pompeii, which is, very close, and that's the area where that Mount Vesuvius is located. And we didn't go to the Mount Vesuvius, but from our vantage point, we could see smoke coming out of the mountain. So we knew there was a active volcano there. So Pompeii is, as you know, it was a city that was built like in the 18th century BC, and they had this huge volcano eruption that basically decimated the entire city of Pompeii and covered it with lava. So some of Pompeii have already been excavated, and that's the area we saw. And then there's still some areas that are yet to be excavated. So here we have an area where there used to be a huge building, but only columns remain. The columns are standing up. And as you can see, it's a pretty interesting view. And Pompeii is a huge city. It's basically a city within a city. And they have cobblestone roads, and they had a lot of buildings with different houses and different structures for almost every kind of activity. A barber shop, a restaurant, a bar, that kind of thing, and then also people's houses. So here's a shot that I took. If you look at the green area, and if you look closer, and you see all these like circular kind of things that look like tunnels. Okay, at one time, all this green area was a river, and those tunnel-looking things were actually areas where boats could be docked or gone through. So that was in the old days, and now there's no river, and it's all green grass and things like that. But because it was a whole city, they had like a little river, a series of rivers with boats, and then they had the main land area. So here's some more columns. As you can see, if you look to the left, there's like a tower crane, and that crane is actually used as part of the excavation. So they're still excavating a lot. So let me show you some other. Okay, so if you look at the image on the left, that's like cobblestones, and that's basically the road. It's not no asphalt road. They built roads out of cobblestone, and you either had to walk on it, or they had horses and carriages that they used for transportation. And they did have little sidewalks, but it was also built out of cobblestone. So if you look at the hill area where it's all green and grass is growing, that's the area that is still under excavation, okay, and restoration. So in other words, they have to dig down and excavate down to where they could see the rest of the city, the rest of the buildings. So if you look on the right, there's a map of Pompeii showing still undiscovered parts of the ancient city. So areas where you see green, that's areas where it still needs to be excavated. And no one really knows what they're going to find. They have an idea to find more buildings and structures and things like that, but it's still in process of being excavated, and it's a huge area. I mean, you know, you talk about walking 10,000 steps just to walk around the available site is more than that. It's like, you know, you can walk for miles. The area is really big. So we're moving along to from Naples to Rome. So I don't know if you're familiar with Italy, but if you're on the Italy where we left Venice and we're cruising down, now we're going down to the bottom where that boot is, and then we stopped over at Sicily, but I didn't really you know, take any pictures of Sicily building, but we stopped in Messina, and they got historic center castles, and you know, people say that everyone says that Sicily is a peninsula, which is not an island. It's a body of land surrounded by three sides of water, but in reality, there's a very little connection to land because there's like a waterway. So to me, it's sort of like an island. But anyway, we're moving on to, we passed Sicily on our tour. We get to Rome now, and Rome is the capital of Italy, if you didn't know that. And there's a lot of old structures. So in the city of Rome, you know, there's we went to the Colosseum area, and then we walked around, and so this is an Arch of Constantine. I mean, it's obvious that the thing is super old, and it's all fenced off. You can't even go and touch it. You got to stay far away and take a picture. That's why you got this steel fencing, and the tourists are all around there trying to take photos. I mean, it's pretty awesome. And then around the same area where the Colosseum is, there's an area called the Roman Forum, and there's all these old ancient buildings, and it's amazing. I mean, I could just stand at one building and look at it for 10 minutes. Just every building is different the way it's designed. You got these big columns, and you think like, how did they even design and build this kind of building? You know, it's pretty amazing. And the stairs. Here's some other pieces that are standing. The rest of the building's gone, but these pieces are still standing. I mean, it's pretty amazing. And in perspective, these are like 30, 40, 50 feet high. Here's some other ones. You can just see the column standing, but you can see those trees, Italian cypress. Italian cypress, when I was growing up in Kailua, we had Italian cypress in our front yard, and it's the same, you know, an evergreen type tree. So this is part of the Roman Forum. And it's interesting when you look at it, you see all the trees and the greenery. It's a pretty nice scene. And then let's go to Vatican City now, and we look at St. Peter's Basilica. So there's this big square like St. Mark's Square called St. Peter's Square. And then around the square, you have different buildings. One of them, the biggest one, the landmark is St. Peter's Basilica, which is St. Peter's Church. And here's a pretty good picture that I took of it. And if you look at on the top, on the rooftop, you see all these statues, right? And I'll talk about that later. But if you look in the middle, where you see the banner that looks sort of white with red and maybe yellow, and if you look above there, that's like a balcony. So when the Pope actually gives his sermons, he stands on that balcony. So that's the image here. I was there waiting for the Pope to come out, but then I found out that he was out of town at the time. So anyway, this is I thought this is a pretty neat photo. And if you look at the top right, very top right, you see there's a clock there. Yeah, so that's called like a clock tower. And then here's another view. I took this far back, so when I zoomed in for the photo, it got kind of faded. But the reason why I wanted to show this is it shows the dome in the back, because this photo here of up close, you can't see the dome. So this one, you can see the dome. It's sort of like you know, the state capitol building kind of thing with the dome. It's and then there's a statue on the top, at the very top. Okay, so let me continue on. So here's St. Peter's Square, and you can see how big it is and all these other buildings, you know, around it. And at the time, I waited. This place was pretty packed, and it's weird because tourists go in droves. They're like on these little tours. So you got like 50 people in one group, 30 another. And so I had to time it just right to get a shot where there's, you know, not too many tourists. So these people here in the shot, they're not on a tour. They're just like by themselves walking around. Okay, so we go inside the Basilica Main. That church is pretty awesome. You walk inside and you look at the floor, and then you look up at the ceiling. You look at the walls and the ceilings, and it's just like, how could anybody even design and build something like this? It's like so amazing. So here's a picture of St. Peter's Square. Now, where are all the tourists? Well, what I did was I yelled out. I said, everybody, I'm taking a picture. Move out of the way. You guys on the right, move to the right. You guys on the left, move away. That's how I got this shot. So you don't see too many. The tourists that you can see, they didn't listen. They couldn't speak English, so they were still stand. But this shot is rare, because it's rare to get a shot like this with no tourists or hardly any tourists, unless you go there like early in the morning before it opens or something. And then some more photos of inside the church. The ceiling, I mean, this is like a masterpiece in itself. The columns are all like marble and stuff and engraved, and I mean, people can spend hours in this church. And then part of the square, there's a Vatican structure, which is an obelisk. And basically, this is an Egyptian type structure. And you want to know how high this is? This is 84 feet high. It's like almost 9 stories, and that's how high it is. So this is a monument in itself. And it's funny because there were a bunch of tours of a lot of Korean and Japanese and Chinese tourists there, and they're all like expensive cameras taking pictures of this thing. It was pretty funny. Well, I took a picture too. So, and then you have a fountain. And fountains are very important in Italy. This is Fontaine di Piazza San Pietro, which is basically a fountain in the St. Peter's Square. And luckily there was water, but as you can see, there's still a lot of tourists around. If you look up at the building, you see all these statues too. And it's kind of weird to have buildings with statues all on the top, you know, looking over, watching you and all that. They're like guardians. Yeah. So And then here's another shot, the front of the basilica with the view of the roof. I wanted to show this because I wanted to talk about the statues. So each statue on the roof is a protector, is a guardian of the building. And every statue has a name and a meaning for it. And you know, when I did some research about it, they had, you know, the name of the statue and what the person does and the history behind it and all that. So it's pretty interesting if you're interested in that kind of thing. And then you can see the balcony with that banner in the middle. Okay, so that's St. Peter's Square. And then let's go back to where the Colosseum is, and let's talk about that. The Colosseum is basically made out of a lot of bricks and huge stone blocks. And there's no, you know, when they build buildings today, it's built of poured concrete or sections of blocks with concrete or mortar that's attached, you know, securing the blocks together. In this case, you got these large stone blocks and they're not attached with concrete or anything. They're just sitting there. And the way that it was cut is exact. So there's no space in between. You can't even fit a credit card. I tried to take a credit card or a dollar bill and fit it in the crack, and there's no room. But if you see these big cracks, that's just erosion over time. When the building was built, the stones were so secure that you couldn't fit even like a credit card or piece of paper in that joint where the crack is. Okay, so it's amazing how it's built. And the size of these things, the weight is like equivalent to like a SUV, you know, full size SUV. That's how heavy or even heavier. So it took years and years to have the Colosseum built, and it's pretty amazing. Let me see. Here's an exterior view showing 4 stories. Okay, so initially it was about 4 stories high, you know, from ground level. But then they had a series of earthquakes and damage. That's why part of the structure is not 4 stories, it's only 3. So I took this view from kind of far away. Let me show you another. Oh, here's the interior view with the exposed basement pit. Now, originally, like from the outside, it looks like 3 or 4 stories, but from the inside, there's in the beginning they didn't, when they opened this up for tourists, they didn't have the basement pit exposed. It was all covered and it looked like 1 floor. And then since then they uncovered it. So the basement pit actually is made of 2 stories, and it's a maze. They have tunnels and you know, 2 stories of underground pathways and walkways and all that. So they have it built so that if you're you know, underground and you want to be featured, you go through a certain door to the path, and then when you get out, now you're on the floor of the Colosseum. And it was a dirt floor. So I guess if you're a bad guy, you have a sign that says, you know, go here, and then follow the arrow, and the next thing you know, you're out there in the open, and then they release the lions, right? So you got to try and fight the lions. Of course, you never win. So it's pretty eerie to go down and see and know how many people had died in the Colosseum. But as with any kind of hierarchy in watching concerts and all that, the emperor and all the VIPs sit, you know, in the front. So you got the best view, and then it goes back. So the slaves and the people who don't have any royalty lineage, they got to sit way up in the so-called nosebleed section where it's, you know, harder to see anything. And Um, the Colosseum itself, when it was built, it could house about between 50 to 80,000 people. So to get a concept of the size, if you're in Hawaii, and we have the biggest venue for football games, concerts, and all that is the Aloha Stadium, which is closed now, but Aloha Stadium could fit about 52,000 people maximum. Okay, so in the context, the Coliseum could fit about 65,000 people. So it's bigger than the Aloha Stadium. Okay, that's pretty much the size. Here's another exterior view with 3 stories, and the reason why it's not 4 stories is because the top had fallen down during an earthquake. And then here's another close-up shot that I took of the 4 stories. So I kind of had fun walking around taking pictures and acting like a tourist, but I also wanted to get a good history. And you know, if you ever have a chance to visit the Colosseum, it's pretty amazing. And I look forward to, you know, going on a trip. And that was my number one and number 2 landmark that I wanted to visit. My actual number 1 was Pompeii, because I was interested in seeing the city and all that. So recap, a summary of historic places that we visited today: Trieste, Venice, Pompeii, and Rome. So that kind of recaps what we have here. Thank you. That concludes our tour of Italy. You can put away your passports now and make sure you have your boarding passes to go back home. But before I leave, I don't have any case studies, basically. I usually do, but the case study is basically this whole tour. And appreciate you guys going on the tour. And I want to tell you more about, I don't really have a conclusion here, but the reason why I'm bringing this up is I give a series, Martin and I give a series of webinars on building and construction topics. And if you tuned in just for the Italy tour, I'm letting you know that the topics that we gave for our previous webinars are how long does it last, about building components, and then fire code inspections. And then future webinars that I'm going to be talking about is why is my electric bill so high? And then also why is my Honolulu building permit taking so long? And these are requests that we've gotten from people who attended our webinars and want to hear, you know, me talk about those topics. So hopefully you're interested in that. And then after that, we got emergency generators, climate change, global warming, is it real? Then after that, I'm going to be talking about condo board errors and condominium lawsuits. And those are lawsuits that I have been involved in as an expert witness. So if you want to hear it from the horse's mouth, tune into that. So that's what you missed, and that's also what's coming up. And then visit our website, askbuildingexpert.now.site. We have all our webinars, our 50 something or so webinars we've given in the past, all are on demand. So our videos are on the website. You can watch it at any time. Also, we have handouts. You have our PowerPoints there. There's some free books and assorted things to give away. You got questions, I got answers. If you want to get a hold of me, phone number 808-422-2132. Especially if you're calling from a foreign country or even in the United States, you got to use the area code. Email lanceluke@hawaiibuildingexpert.com. Before I go into the question and answer part, I wanted to, if you're in Hawaii and you're interested in the Building Expo, please come to the NBC March 8th and 9th You have to register at tradeshowshawaii.com. And I'm giving a seminar on how safe is your building. And each person that comes to my seminar will get a free book that's hot off the press. The seminar is on Wednesday, March 8th at 10 a.m. So you have to register to attend the trade show to get a badge to come in. You don't have to register for the seminar. You can just show up. But basically, that's it. I'm inviting you to that. And now I'm inviting you guys to ask any questions. And I'm going to turn it over to Martin to see he's monitoring our chat Q&A on the Zoom platform and all that. So Martin, are you there?
Yes, I am, Lance. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah, good.
Okay. Well, we had a few questions that had come in, so let me hit you with them. The first one was someone read an article that stated that Venice is using some sort of contraption to protect the city from sea level rises. Have you heard about that?
Yeah, I think 2 years ago they had designed. Prior to that, they were designing some kind of structure to prevent flooding. So they actually have it in place now. And because Venice is a floating city surrounded by water, every time there's a storm and all that, the sea level rises and the buildings get flooded out, right? So it's a structure that they built on platforms, and when they get word that there's an upcoming storm, they raise the platform, and it prevents the water from coming in. That's the simplest explanation I can give. It's highly technical in nature, and I read the data. There's a lot of scientific data and how the structure's built, how it performs, and all that. There's also in the plaza at St. Mark's that I was mentioning, they have these series of glass panels that they can put in place to prevent the water from flooding the buildings. So that's all there. But interesting enough, and thank you, Martin, for the report this morning that Venice has been undergoing a drought right now. So the canals, especially low tide, the canals are all very low. So it's so low that you can't even have gondolas or water taxis or anything. So I'm not sure what they're going to do, because the city is surrounded by water, and then all the canals, and the canals are actually the roads. So when you have an emergency, you have basically a ambulance that's a water ambulance. And if the tide is so low, they can't use the water ambulance. So I'm not sure how they get to the people in emergency, but maybe that's something that you might be interested in finding out. So what else we got?
Well, the next question that's come in is, what are the plans for Pompeii? How long is excavation going to go on?
Well, about close to 1/3 of the area is still not excavated. So they're looking at, when I was there on a tour and I talked to the tour guide, he was saying the projection from the archaeologists and the people who are in charge, they're looking at least 10 to 15 more years. But of course, it's subject to financing, right? So if they get all the funds in, then they can accelerate the excavation. But if it's slow to trickle in, it may be another 20 or 30 years before it's all said and done. And that's the only area that they know of, right? There could be other areas of the city where it's not on the map, right? So we're not really sure, but it's going to take years. Suffice it to say, it's not going to happen within another 5 years. It'll be done. I think they're going to keep going on and on, at least for the next 10 years.
Oh, okay, interesting. Let's see, the next question we got that's come in is Vatican City really its own country?
Interesting enough, and a lot of people don't know this, but Vatican City is actually not only its own country, it's its own city and its own state. So it's basically not even legally part of Rome or part of Italy. Okay, so it's a country within a country. So it's its own country within the city of Rome, and it's its own country within the country of Italy. So it's interesting. They have their own special police force. Of course, the Pope is the one, in charge of Vatican City, but it's basically its own country that's part of the United Nations also. I think it's the smallest country in the world. Vatican City is super small. I can walk around Vatican City in a day. They don't have that many people living there, a couple thousand maybe, and that's it. So it is its own country and state. It has its own flag. It has its own post office, police force, everything. And yeah, that's good to know. That's just a piece of trivia there.
Okay, thanks, Lance. And then the last question I get so far, unless any others coming in online here, is it's a personal question or something like that. This is not a building related question, but did you eat pizza in Italy? If so, how does it compare with the
No,
pizza in the US?
No, I actually ate Simon. Actually, they don't have that. They don't have local mocos or anything, but it's interesting. I'll tell you this story. When we were in Rome, we stayed at this like fancy hotel, and they had this restaurant. And so we went to the restaurant for lunch, and I ordered pizza. Okay, I had pizza elsewhere, like in those the restaurants where you sit outside and stuff, but so I ordered pizza, and then it came on this plate, and it was like an oval shape. And I told my wife, I said, geez, they don't even know how to make pizza in Italy. It's supposed to be round, right? Because we're used to eating round pizza all the time. And so I'm thinking, geez, sloppy or whatever, right? And so then I cut a piece and I ate it, and man, it was the best pizza I ever had in my whole life. And then I realized when the waiter came, I said, how come it's not in a round shape? And he laughed. He said, oh, that's only United States. We make our pizza in whatever shape that when they roll out the dough and smooth it out, whatever shape that dough is, that's the shape of the pizza. So it happened to be oval shape, right? So it didn't matter what shape it was. And then, kind of embarrassed to say this, but it was so good that we went to that same restaurant for lunch 3 days in a row. And guess what? I ordered the same pizza. That's how good it was. So there's no comparison to pizza in Italy to pizza in the United States, no matter where. And of course, the pizza that we eat, most of the time it's all fast food, right? Domino's, Pizza Hut, that type, which is no comparison. And the frozen pizza is even worse, right? But yeah, I mean, if you go to Italy, you gotta eat pizza and spaghetti and all that. So it was fun. And going out to these places to eat was challenging because there's so many eateries, and we didn't know, and we just picked one, and it just happened to be a good place to eat at. I mean, what we do is we look to see where it was crowded and where the locals eat, right? And guarantee the food got to be good. So anyway, we got any other comments or questions?
No other comments that I see coming in or questions. But Good job. Nice tour.
Okay, so, anything on our Facebook? Any comments or questions or anything like that?
No, nobody wanted to comment, but a lot of viewers, but nobody asking questions or anything today.
Okay,
Lot of thumbs up.
okay, so who was the first person to log in on this webinar on Facebook Live? Do you know?
Gosh, no, I don't. Let me see. No, I can't really tell. I thought I saw somebody earlier. It was who's that? Dion Kashinago, but I just happened to see him come
Yeah,
on.
okay. So that person was the first one
Oh, okay.
that, according to mine, so I'm giving away a keychain from Italy. Here it is. If you can see this keychain that I bought in Rome. Okay. And so I'm going to give this keychain away to the first person that signed up, which is that person. So we got to, whoever it is, Dion, you got to, I guess you could do a Facebook Messenger. We need your physical address so we can send you the keychain. And then, by the way, this keychain I bought in Vatican City, Rome, it was blessed. Okay. Who was it blessed by? It was blessed by the street vendor that I bought it from. So anyway, we'll get that to you. So this is fun. I had fun on the tour. Martin, did you have fun too?
I always have fun.
Okay, well, I see you're still sitting in front of the Coliseum. I mean, were you asking for donations or anything?
Not this time.
Oh, okay, cool. All right, so we're gonna sign off. We thank everybody for attending. And I know there's a bunch of people that posted on Facebook that they were sorry they missed this tour, but it's going to be on Facebook. If you tune in, you can watch it because the recording is going to be there. I don't know how long, but it will be there. And then we're also going to save it and then post it on our website too. So Martin, we can do that, yeah.
Yep, we'll do. It'll
Yeah.
be on actually the asset building site, yeah, like we usually
Okay.
do.
Good. All right, so we'll sign off now and hope to see you guys again at the next webinar. Aloha.
Aloha.